I was going to start with Mike. It's Friday, but it's not Friday.
Not Friday. It kind of feels like a Friday. You're
I'm
in the
really,
office, right? You're in Seattle?
yeah, I'm in our Seattle office and I'm annoyed that it's not Friday. I mean, there's nobody in the parking lot. There's nobody
Yeah.
downtown. I get the sense like December has started early here. By the way, for any of you in Seattle, the Fairmont has they're doing their teddy bear room again, which is a room full of teddy bears. Donate to charity. It's fantastic. If you have kids, do not miss
Really.
this. Yes, it is amazing. It's next door to our office. Our office is not actually in the Fairmont, but I will meet anybody for a drink in the Fairmont. So you just let me know.
Okay.
All right. See, these are very important things to start with, Mike.
They are. They are. And just anecdotally, I will also tell you this: the very last piece of my little daughter that I'm hanging on to is the fact that the bear that we bought for her when she was 18 months old,
Uh huh.
Bruno,
Uh huh.
still every day she covers him up, leaving his snout poked out so he can breathe
Oh,
when she makes her bed in the morning. The last little piece of my kid.
that is that's really sweet. Okay. Hard transition.
Yeah. Segue that one, buddy.
Speaking of teddy bears, we did a webinar this week and talked about our the evolution of the company and how Critical Insight has evolved, and we've done it in two ways. Number one, our SOC platform, our MDR platform, is changing, and we are becoming. And Mike hates acronyms, so he's going to sneer when I say this. MXDR, which is Managed XDR. See, he hates acronyms. It's MDR, but with more integrations and more capabilities and exposing what's happening in the SOC to the customer, which is
Great
what a lot of
detection
our
analytics.
yeah, great detection analytics, a lot of things our customers been asking for. And also a GRC tool, a risk and compliance platform, cyber risk and compliance platform from CyberSaint. All of our MDR customers, it'll be included. And Mike, this really goes to this thing that you've always said, which is one tool, one service is not going to solve your cybersecurity problems. Like you gotta improve the whole program.
Well, and so I mean it's nominally called a risk and compliance tool because it doesn't do governance for you, but um, it will not only allow you to see how you line up against an actual set of regulatory requirements that you're under, but then
Mhm.
you can crosswalk that to other things. So if you wanted to do yourself against the NIST framework and then see how that lines you up for CMMC compliance,
Yeah,
right? If you're
sure.
doing business
Mhm.
with the federal government, it's pretty useful. I
Right.
use it. In fact, I'm in the middle of using it right now to do our annual risk assessment, which I have to get done by the end of the year, so we have to hurry
Not so much
up.
time before the end of the year. You better
Yeah,
hurry up. Um, nobody heard that, right?
clock's ticking.
Nobody heard that Mike's behind on that. Okay. Also, one important other thing for folks is if you work in tribal governments, we're doing
Hmm.
a webinar next week with a group of tribes about how to apply for your grants because it's different than the state and local program. So if you need a link to that, let me know. Happy to do that. All right, Mike. Let's jump into the news here.
Sure.
We got a bunch of questions this week about the Chinese attacks on critical infrastructure. What is happening?
Yeah, I was getting phone calls from people saying, "What's going on here?" And that was
Hmm.
before I had seen, any news about this, any public reporting about this.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what the United States, are saying is they are attacking water and power utilities, oil and gas pipelines, transportation, communication, and the speculation is that this is part of a broader effort to hit logistics targets in terms of conflict that could arise in the Pacific region, right? South China Sea, Taiwan in particular. And they're lining up to be able to be very disruptive at the minute something kinetic starts, or maybe even before. So, there's a lot, and this is not the first report on this, right? these things have come out over the last couple of years. Hey, Chinese are trying to get, into our energy infrastructure. Well, now it turns out there's, I think when we get down to threats and vulnerabilities, we can talk about it. But this Volt Typhoon group, they're building a big botnet out of a whole bunch of consumer grade devices, some of which are even deployed into operational technology environments. So I'm sure that CISA, and the FBI are having personal conversations with utilities and doing the best they can to find out, exactly how far this has gone. But there's a lot of really freaky articles out there about that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that's 100% right.
Yep.
I think the effects of that, to be known. But, one of your predictions for 2024 is a continued pickup in nation state activity. We had talked about Iranian actors going after Israeli companies. We had talked about, things flooding from the Middle East, and here, it continues to be that the main threat is China.
It is. And the election disinformation has already started. China and Russia in particular are really hitting us hard with election disinfo. So, buckle up, man. 2024 is going to be lit.
Yep. Okay. Speaking of which, municipalities and ransomware, there's been a tick up. I actually had seen earlier in the year that there was a bit of a calm down, but as we get towards the end of the year, it's coming back up.
Yeah, they say that the rate of ransomware attacks in state and local governments has gone from 58% to 69% year over year. So, and factor into that, some stuff probably doesn't get reported. So it could be even a little worse than that. And when we decided that we were going to, as a company mission, work in the sectors that are important, right, that affect us at the scale of our lives, we picked local government and health. And man, we are so on the money with that. That's who's getting whacked. Now, they're hard to work with, procurement, competitive procurement, all that stuff that we, need to navigate. But we're doing the right thing. And that just underscores it right there.
And so I want to be clear about something, because you said that, and then something came up in one of our webinars, which is somebody said, do you only work with state and local government and healthcare? And the answer is no. Like we help anybody, but we started with the most difficult regulated sectors. And as one of our customers said, who's in manufacturing, hey, if you guys can deal with hospital environments and deal with state and local government environments, and all of the pressures in those places, then you can work for me as well. Yeah. And that's a good way to think about it. Okay. Also, going to healthcare, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is a ridiculous piece of news. Because Mike and
I agree.
Mike and I are gonna. Oh, we're not gonna fight about this.
No, I'm gonna agree.
So HHS, Health and Human Services, federal, wants to fund their cybersecurity program by punishing hospitals for breaches.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, not only that, here is the 976th iteration of the requirements we're going to give you. Right. So they have, some areas of focus, right? They want to establish voluntary cybersecurity goals for the healthcare sector. That means they're going to get everybody at the table and they're going to agree writ large what those are going to be. They do say they're going to provide resources to incentivize, which kind of, to me, talks back to the thing that happened with the EPA where they got sued by a couple of states because it was an unfunded mandate.
Sure.
Well, they're going to fund this. But as you say, they're going to use penalties to fund this. And already, we're talking about with the cost of downtime, with the cost of patient redirection, patient outcomes that go off a cliff if you're already admitted to a hospital and there's a ransomware event. And then the knock-on effects of a class action suit if you lose records and those records meet the definition of privacy information, which they do. And now they're going to penalize them again, and they're going to use the penalties to fund the program to provide the incentives. This is I don't get this.
This
I'm
is
having trouble convinced.
circuitous logic, number one, and number
Yeah.
two, there is a basic truth, and I think we all need to understand this basic truth, which is when we talk about hospitals and we talk about healthcare organizations, these are organizations that hire people who save lives. These
Yeah.
are people, we want them to go hire the best doctor. Like if I have to go to the hospital because I'm having a heart issue, I want them to have spent a lot of money on that cardiologist and
Yep.
all of the tech that the cardiologist had. I do not want that hospital to have a massive team that can fight nation states, right? I mean, when a hospital gets hit, they're the victim. And so what we're saying here is, yeah, we're going to punish you for being the victim. Now, look, there are certainly hospitals that have been hit that have not done the basics that they need to do. They, sometimes, there is fault, but we have to remember that they are the victims. And I'm quoting John Ricci from the American Hospital Association here. They're the victims.
Well, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. We are all the victims. Okay. There is a great deal of public harm done every time there's one of these events. Okay.
Sure.
And there is a completely private responsibility to do everything to ensure that these things don't happen. And that disconnect is something that nobody is really digging into and doing anything about. And this is why I think, frankly, and this should have been one of our predictions when we did the prediction webinar. Um, I think more and more, especially in these critical sectors that are super underfunded like this, more and more free stuff is going to be given to them. Government's probably going to get into free monitoring, free penetration testing, probably work with their organizations to make sure they have appropriate governance in place and they can make their own decisions about risk management with executive fingerprints on them. And I think just federal government's going to have to step in and do a whole lot more. I actually think that there should be national policy that penalizes other countries for allowing their criminals to run wild, and also their state actors. But this way that the HHS is doing this, and already the American Hospital Association is pushing back on this. All right,
Yep.
it's look, if cybercrime is an $8 trillion a year global problem, okay, the third largest economy in the world, you, a hospital in rural Idaho, are you going to go fist to fist with the third largest economy in the world and come out on top? No, it is a foregone conclusion. So we need some other method of dealing with this than here's your requirements, don't blow it, or we're going to fine you.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying that they don't have a responsibility to protect patients with good cyber posture and all of that. I am saying we have to remember that they're victims of a crime.
Yeah.
So, fining them for it seems like an odd way to go.
It's just beating ourselves with a baseball bat. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's imperfect.
Imperfect.
Imperfect. All right. Other big things that have happened. Dollar Tree was hit with a breach.
Yeah, Dollar Tree was hit with a breach. Actually, there was a service provider, and I bet this is an outsourced IT provider. It's called Zeroed In, and they're the ones that had a security incident. And this is way back, kind of the beginning of August. And the scale of how far this is propagated out into the Dollar Tree stores.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, already triggered potential class action suit against Zeroed In, right? There are just all we're doing is making attorneys rich with all this stuff. Nobody wants their record disclosed, right?
It's Zeroed In is their analytics.
Is that what they are?
Yeah, they're not a managed service provider. Yeah.
Well, then it's probably gone farther than Dollar Tree, and there's going to be
that's likely
more shoes to drop, right?
They're just a very public. I shop at Dollar Tree. I like Dollar Tree.
I don't know. I saw the expose of Dollar Tree on John Oliver's show. I think I'll stay away.
I like Dollar Tree, but okay.
I like John Oliver.
I something tells me Mike and I shop in different places, but both end up wearing black shirts. It's very odd.
I don't shop. I just buy. I don't really like the shopping experience. Hey, and by the way, I want to mention one more thing. The Black Cat gang, Alfie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their leak site is gone, taken down.
Oh,
And yeah, and it
what
appeared,
happened?
well, everybody thinks it's law enforcement related, but law enforcement hasn't held up a hand and said, "Yeah, we did it." So we don't really know. I want to think it's law enforcement. I want to think, that's part of our government getting into this fight, and trying to backfill for,
Interesting.
here's your requirements. We'll fine you if you blow it, and
Uh-huh.
actually being proactive about this, because
Very interesting.
those guys are responsible for a whole lot of things we report.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Speaking of Russia,
Yes.
um, uh, uh, this attack in Ukraine, we've always said that Russia was going to launch large attacks, large cyber attacks against Ukraine, but this one's pretty big. It was telecom, right?
Yeah, and it's impacted a whole lot of things, right? Like ATMs don't work, right? They're talking about cell service for more than half the population. Internet's not working for millions of people, and when you cut off communications like that, panic tends to set in, right?
Well, and
Nobody
and
knows
one of
what's
the
going on.
one of the big things that people count on is in the US, you count on your phone to give you weather alerts. In the Ukraine, you count on it to give you missile alerts, right?
Yeah, and that's not working.
Yeah, and that's not working. So,
But I
both.
will say this, and there's other reporting, that I've looked at this morning. Uh, Russia's attempts to take down infrastructure in Ukraine have not been as successful as they thought, as the
Mhm,
Russians thought.
mhm,
And the reason is because the Ukrainian IT infrastructure and their professionals are very resilient, and nothing stays down for long.
mhm.
Right? That's the whole this whole thing about resilience, man. Take a punch, get up. That's what they're doing right. So I don't expect this to last, but it sure can cause panic.
Sure can. All right. At the end of wait, threats and phones. I almost forgot threats and phones. We're gonna
Uh,
get a kicker. Wait, do threats and phones, Mike.
Okay, let's see. Critical infrastructure routers by a company, Sierra 21, are vulnerable. If you are in operational technology, check that out. The botnet being built by this Volt Typhoon campaign. This is China that I talked about. There's a whole bunch of commodity grade, consumer grade routers, Netgear, ProSafe firewalls, low end Cisco stuff, and and what I read this morning is this is an impossible to kill botnet. And part of the reason is because we don't, your home stuff, nobody's patching that stuff. If it's your home router that was provided by your ISP, that's probably getting patched, but your own stuff is not. There's a Bluetooth vulnerability, and if you broadcast your beacon your Bluetooth and it's discoverable, there's an authentication bypass that will permit somebody walking by you to inject keystrokes into your phone. That ain't good.
Oh.
Uh, yeah.
And is that any phone? Is that Apple or Android or Windows phone?
It's Android, Linux, Mac OS, and iOS devices.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's a lot of
kind of
devices.
kind of
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
right? Let's see. Sophos. There was a end of life firewall, and they went ahead and they upgraded the firmware in those because they were all getting hacked, right? Probably by this Volt Typhoon group, right? And then, Microsoft patches just came out. It was a lighter patch bundle than normal. It apparently had no 0 days in it, which is good. That's like one in a row. And then Apple also released some security patches for iOS and Mac OS. So if you're an Apple user, find that out. And Apple's pretty good about patching its stuff, but just be aware.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, actually,
There's
I
more,
think
but we'll cap it there.
yeah, I think I actually got a notification this morning for a patch on my iPhone,
Hmm.
so I will do that when I'm not using it. All right. At the end of all these, you got something funny, kicker, make us laugh. What do you got?
Okay. All right. So you remember Google Glass, right? It was
Yeah.
like, right, you were constantly connected to Google and it
Yeah.
would tell you things about what you're seeing. So Meta has come out with a pair of these glasses,
Yeah. The Ray Bans.
the Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
And Zuckerberg did a demo of this, and he did it in the schleppiest way. He he picks up a striped shirt and he says he's got the glasses on. He goes, "Hey Meta, look and tell me what pants to wear with this shirt." And the reporting, and of course this comes from the Register. It says Zuckerberg asked his glasses in what may be the most asinine question to ask vision-enabled AI since Chat GPT rolled out a similar feature back in September. It's, I could have thought up a better demo than that. I mean, come on. What do I wear? And it picks out a shirt. It look like one of the Beach Boys or something. Okay, if you're old
That's
enough,
pretty good.
that made sense.
Mike, who are the Beach Boys?
Yeah, I know, right? Set that aside.
Were they like were they a boy band?
They were, turns out.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we didn't know it at the time. Yeah, I wasn't around. Mike was around. So.
Not true. That's not true.
Oh, it's not true that you were around, or it's not true that I wasn't? Because
it's not true that you weren't.
How old do you think I am, Mike?
Let's not go there.
All right, everybody. I think we've established the original boy band was the Beach Boys, and that I'm maybe younger than I look. I don't know. I'm a little scared by the end of this one, so I'm going to go put on my Ray-Bans and ask them what the right answer is. All right, everybody. Good seeing you.
Okay, Serpent USA.
Round, get around. All right, goodbye.